The velvet curtains of the Moonlight Theater rippled in the evening breeze that swept through the open windows. Sarah adjusted her sequined costume one final time, the familiar weight of her magician's assistant outfit both comforting and confining. She had been performing these same tricks for 3 years now, disappearing into boxes, being sawed in half, and reappearing with practiced grace. The audience always gasped at the right moments, but lately the magic felt hollow. Tonight was different, though. Tonight she could feel it in the air, something electric, something that made her skin tingle with anticipation she couldn't quite name. "Places, everyone," called Marcus, the theater's stage manager. His voice echoed through the backstage, area where performers adjusted their costumes and checked their props. Sarah took a deep breath, inhaling the familiar scent of sawdust, old wood, and the faint hint of smoke from the fog machines. The main act tonight was Alessandro Fierro, the renowned magician whose performances had drawn crowds from 3 states. Alessandro was everything you'd expect from a master illusionist, commanding, mysterious, with dark eyes that seemed to see through every trick and facade. He was also the unofficial leader of their traveling troupe, the alpha of their small, tight-knit family of performers. But it wasn't Alessandro who made Sarah's heart race tonight. It was his younger brother, Gabriel. Gabriel stood in the shadows near the prop table, his gentle hands carefully arranging the silk scarves that would later dance through the air as if moved by invisible strings. Where Alessandro commanded attention with his presence, Gabriel drew people in with his quiet intensity. His magic was different, subtler, more intimate. When Gabriel performed, it felt less like a show and more like sharing a secret. "Sarah," Gabriel's voice was soft, barely audible above the pre-show chatter. "Could you help me with something?" She moved toward him, her heels clicking softly on the worn wooden floor. "Of course. What do you need?" Gabriel held up a silver locket, its chain catching the light from the overhead bulbs. "This belonged to our grandmother. She was a magician too, you know. Alessandro thinks I should use it in tonight's show, but..." He paused, his thumb tracing the intricate engravings on the locket's surface. "I'm not sure I'm ready." Sarah studied his face, noting the uncertainty in his dark eyes. Gabriel had always lived in his brother's shadow, supporting Alessandro's grand illusions, while his own gentler magic went largely unnoticed. The troupe respected Alessandro's leadership, but they loved Gabriel's kindness. "What would the locket do?" Sarah asked, genuinely curious. "It's supposed to reveal truth," Gabriel said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Not just any truth, but the truth that matters most to the person holding it. Grandmother used it only once, the night she met our grandfather. She said it showed her who she was meant to be with." Sarah felt her breath catch. "That's beautiful. Magic. It's also dangerous," Gabriel admitted. "What if the truth isn't what you want to hear?" Before Sarah could respond, Alessandro's voice boomed across the backstage area. "Gabriel, we're starting in 2 minutes. Are you ready?" Gabriel nodded to his brother, then looked back at Sarah. "I guess I'll find out." The show began with Alessandro's signature tricks, grand illusions that left the audience breathless. Sarah played her part perfectly, smiling and gesturing as she was made to disappear and reappear, as cards transformed into doves, as impossible things became possible under the theater's bright lights. But when Gabriel took the stage for his solo act, the entire atmosphere changed. He began with simple tricks, coins that danced between his fingers, flowers that bloomed from empty air. The audience leaned forward, drawn in by the intimate nature of his performance. Sarah watched from the wings, mesmerized by the way Gabriel moved, the way he seemed to weave actual magic into the world rather than just creating illusions. Then Gabriel reached into his pocket, and pulled out the silver locket. "This belonged to someone very special," he said to the audience, his voice carrying easily through the hushed theater. "She believed that real magic isn't about fooling people. It's about helping them see what's already there." Gabriel held the locket up, and it began to glow with a soft, warm light. The audience murmured in wonder, but Sarah knew this wasn't just another trick. The light pulsed gently like a heartbeat, and she could feel something shifting in the air around them. "The truth this locket reveals isn't always comfortable," Gabriel continued, his eyes finding Sarah's in the darkness of the wings. "But it's always necessary." Sarah felt drawn forward, as if invisible strings were pulling her onto the stage. She knew she should stay in the wings, should let Gabriel finish his act alone, but something deeper than professional duty called to her. She stepped into the light. The audience held its breath as Sarah walked toward Gabriel, her sequined costume, catching the locket's glow. Gabriel extended his hand, the locket resting in his palm, and Sarah reached out to touch it. The moment her fingers made contact with the silver surface, the world changed. The theater, the audience, even Alessandro. Watching from backstage, everything faded away except for Gabriel's face, illuminated by the locket's gentle radiance. Sarah could see past his quiet demeanor to the strength beneath, past his humility to the powerful magic that flowed through him like a river. But more than that, she could see how he looked at her, not as an assistant or a performer, but as someone precious, someone worth protecting, someone worth loving. "I've been waiting for you to see," Gabriel said softly, his voice meant only for her ears. "Not just me, but yourself. You're not just an assistant, Sarah. You're magic in your own right." Sarah felt tears prick her eyes as the truth settled over her like a warm blanket. She had been so focused on supporting others' magic that she had forgotten her own. But Gabriel had seen it all along. "I see you too," she whispered back, her hand still touching the locket. "I see all of you." The locket's light began to fade, and gradually the theater came back into focus. The audience was applauding, though Sarah wasn't sure if they understood what they had just witnessed. To them, it might have looked like just another beautiful trick. But backstage, Alessandro was smiling, a knowing, gentle smile that told Sarah he understood exactly what had happened. "Looks like Gabriel won't be living in anyone's shadow anymore," Alessandro said, as the three of them gathered after the show. "And you, Sarah, I think it's time you started developing your own act." Sarah looked at Gabriel, who was carefully tucking the locket back into his pocket. "Together?" she asked. Gabriel's smile was radiant. "Together." As the theater emptied and the lights dimmed, Sarah realized that sometimes the most powerful magic isn't about grand illusions or commanding attention. Sometimes it's about being seen, truly seen, by someone who recognizes the magic that was always there, waiting to be claimed. The velvet curtains settled into stillness, but the real magic was just beginning.